Today, we have gathered leaders, veterans, and experts to discuss Afghanistan's current crisis and chart a path to a free, just, and sovereign future. At this time, I ask everyone to please rise for the national anthems of Afghanistan and the United States of America. Everybody can please be seated. So my name is Laura Hardin, and I am the Executive Director of the Humanitarian Aid Program here at the Afghanistan-United Front. Today, the people of Afghanistan stand at a crossroads. The people of Afghanistan are living every day under authoritarian oppression, severe restrictions, particularly on women, and abject poverty. In nearly all cases, this regime has far surpassed North Korea and Myanmar, no constitution, relying mainly on archaic religious decrees that have distorted the Islamic faith beyond recognition. In Afghanistan today, girls are forbidden from attending school past the 6th grade. Women are banned from most forms of work, stripped from public life, and all their rights have been eliminated. Journalists are arrested, and former soldiers who fought for the freedom of their country just simply disappear. Living in hiding, and have no ability to provide for their families even 4 years later. Families go hungry with the Taliban controlling who gets fed, leaving most with no ability to care for the marginalized outside of doing it in secret. Millions are displaced inside their own country, and hundreds of thousands more are being deported back in danger from neighboring nations. They go back to a country with little health care, no economy, a failed education system, and radicalized madrasas that will turn out a global security threat never seen before if left unchecked. All of this has created a situation that has made it hard for countries like the United States to continue to be active in the country for the betterment of the Afghan people, even for basic things like humanitarian aid. Food, water, shelter, and medicine are a basic human right. The Taliban has refused to concede on violations of international norms in exchange for economic relief, of which the Afghanistan people need so desperately, and the Taliban themselves cannot provide. This year marks the first time in 24 years that the United States will effectively bring our involvement in Afghanistan to a close. And what happens next will be determined by the Afghan people themselves. While this might seem hopeless, in my time helping the people of Afghanistan start over in the U.S. with literally nothing, I have learned they are fighters, they're resilient, with a proud history and a beautiful culture and a strong spirit. In the last couple of months, we have seen what the Afghan people are capable of in response to the mass deportations back into the country. While there is a severe lack of basic human rights, the Afghan people will have come together in ways that inspire the global community and the diaspora to do the same no matter where they are. They created a mechanism of giving out of nothing that was globally infectious. This tells me that the Afghan people have within themselves the ability to decide freedom, democracy, faith, and charity. Everyday acts of courage are seen in the shadows. Teachers hold secret classes for girls. Journalists still find a way to tell the truth. As an American woman, I would do the same thing. No matter what restrictions are placed on them, women and girls still find a way or make a way to add beauty, which seems to be the Taliban's real issue. I have the same spirit, and those women are me. The resistance that we see taking place all over the country is a testament to what is possible. They need allies, but what they really need is a leader. They need support from the international community, but they need a blueprint on how to begin. They can achieve freedom, but they need a safe haven from which to start. Tonight we're going to talk about a wide range of issues. The information that you hear will impact the global community. Afghanistan has always had this way of just being in the fabric of the American people and its history. For instance, in this room tonight, the Afghan Special Forces represented here kept me safe as an American for the last 20 years. I owe it to them to be in this room. The international community should be engaged because diplomacy is playing its part, but it is reaching a stalemate. Here at the Afghanistan-United Front, we do offer a blueprint. And I hope that when you leave tonight, you will think about what you have heard, apply it to understanding, but choose to be active in the ideas for leading efforts to end the Taliban rule and be an active member of the global community to help restore sovereignty and stability to this country. My friends, restoration is not easy. Since this day, 4 years ago, to this very moment in this room, all of us here at the AUF worked tirelessly to keep the hope of freedom alive and a very real option. To pursue freedom is challenging, but those challenges will make us better than we ever thought we could be. The mission is hard, will take this narrow road because we see a future that is within a realm of possibility. So no matter how long it takes or how much it takes, the AUF is committed to creating a future free from oppression, full of opportunity and dignity for everyone. We will restore a culture that thrives, where voices are heard, and the destiny lies in the hands of its people, and it will be permanent. So now we are going to begin our first panel, and I would like to invite my friend, Mr. Mike Deibler, to the stage to lead our first discussion.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Mike Deibler here from Veteran Command. Hey, first, thank you all for coming and showing up, supporting the cause. I had the honor of meeting Sammy. Test.
Good? Something I need, the Army talking about the usual.
So, hey, again, my name is Mike Deibler. I'm the CEO of Veteran Command, a unit, a company that's meant to tell veteran stories. Finding different ways of telling veteran stories, whether it's through products, storytelling events, open mic events, giving back, or operational support to training in organizations that might need it to help with communication skills. I had the honor to meet Sammy, Laura, and the team earlier this year, actually. So I met them at an event and showing off my map, and I kind of heard a little bit about the cause. So where my map tells a story, I got to hear their story. I've been in the military, the Army, for almost 20 years now. My background is in the intelligence world, national security, special operations world, and currently a consultant for the DoD. So I got near and dear to my heart to the Afghan people, the cause. I spent over 2.5 years over there, 2011, 2012, 2013, in Kandahar and Bagram. So I got to work with the Afghan people the entire time. My job being out in the villages every single day, the shuras, the chai, the naan, all the food, all the great culture, great experience. I really felt like I was at home. So with that, hearing the story of the AUF and wanting to be a part of that, it was a no-brainer for me. So here I am just trying to help out, volunteer, and encourage that where I'm 0% Afghan, but my heart has a piece of Afghanistan in it. So I'm encouraging other veterans out there that did serve. We did do a 20-year war there, and we all left. So a piece of Afghanistan is stuck with every U.S. veteran that's out there. Encouraging all those tuning in online to come out, support the AUF, and try to help keep delivering freedom to those who need it the most. So with that, I'm going to start introduce the team who I'm going to be talking with today. We'll start with, I think online, we have Sarah Adams. Sarah Adams, a former CIA targeter, the author of the Benghazi Know Thy Enemy, an intelligence analyst. She's written extensively on Taliban's ties to ISIS-K and her insights in growing threat to Afghanistan. We have Commander Mullah Malang here in the front row. Commander Malang is a former Mujahideen who fought the Soviets, and later served as the military leader in Afghanistan. He's going to share the daily life and what it's like in Afghanistan currently under Taliban's rule. Online, we have David Loyne. David's joining us from across the pond, a journalist with decades of experience with BBC, and a member of the UK Advisory Panel on Southeast Asia policy. Author of 2 books on Afghanistan, one covering over 200 years of warfare, which Afghanistan unfortunately has seen, and the latest one, The Long War, focused on post-9/11 era. And he'll give us a global perspective of what's going on, how major powers are responding to the crisis. Additionally, we have a special guest with Colonel Hayatullah Parwani, former Afghan intelligence officer who served the Global War on Terror Center, to provide ground source insights on the Afghan National Defense and Security Forces under Taliban rule currently today. So, if we could begin, Commander Malang, if you would come up, and we'll start with you, sir, and we'll have a chat.
ما ځان د دومره تکړه که مرتضی شوی
ترجمان.
السلام علیکم ټول ستړي مسئ
Just gonna hook up the mics here for translation for those who only speak English. And so while we set that up, the key topics of today is really to talk about what life's currently like for the Afghan people, the Afghan military members that work with us, what it's like with the recent crisis from the surge of Afghan refugees from Iran, and then the threat. What is the global threat from Afghanistan us not being there? Or is there one at all? I think we'll hear from experts today that there is, and we'll enlighten that and kind of show the world what's actually happening from on the ground and at a global level. So, sir, Commander Lane.
بیا السلام علیکم ټول ستړي مسئ تشکر کوم چې وخت مو راکړی زه خپله خبره د دې ځایه شروع کوم چې 15 د اګست د 2021 کال د افغانانو لپاره یو توره ورځ ده دا هغه ورځ ده چې د یو ناسنجیده ډیل یا د یو ناسنجیده قرارداد د دوحې قرارداد په نوم یوه تروریستي ډله پر افغانانو باندې تحمیل شوه قدرت ته ورسېده
terrorist group took over Afghanistan, and the people of Afghanistan were basically subject to this authoritarian regime.
دا یو طرفه قرارداد و چې د افغانستان خلک صرف اورېدل چې سوله کېږي، اما په جریان کې هېڅوک نه وه، نه سیاسیون په جریان کې نه وه، موږ د خبرو څخه د راډیو د اخبار څخه اورېدل چې سوله کېږي، اما د سولې په جریان کې د افغانستان ملت نه و چې څنګه سوله کېږي او په سوله کې د چا په ګټه سوله کېږي، څنګه قرارداد کېږي، څنګه فیصله کېږي، دا شی هیڅ نه و. دا تروریستي ډله په افغانستان کې پر افغانانو باندې د پاکستان په حمایت باندې تحمیل شوه. او د دې غټ ثبوت دا دی چې کله طالبان په کابل سره یو ځای شوه نو دوی پر اداري تشکیلاتو نه سره جوړېدل. او د دې اداري تشکیلات د پاکستان د ISI مشر فیض حمید ورته جوړ کړ په آن کې. په 15 د اګست 2021 جمهوریت سقوط شو، دیموکراسي کاملا د منځه ولاړه. د افغانانو د مهاجرت سیلابونه طوفانونه هر طرف ته شروع شوه. او تر اوسه پورې لا هم دغه د افغانانو د مهاجرت طوفانونه جریان لري. خودسرانه بېرحمانه قصدونه بې له محکمې د طالبانو افرادو په هر ولایت کې په کلیو کې په خپل سر وکړه. نظامي تجهیزات ټوله چور شوه. هر زورور طالب چې څومره زور یې درلودی په خپل د خپل توان د وخت په اندازه دوی نظامي تجهیزات وسایل خپل ملکیت وګرځول. د کابل د باندې په ډېرو ولایتونو کې بانکونه هم چور شوه. د مثال په ډول په زابل کې بانک چور شو، په بادغیس کې په قلعه‌نو کې بانک چور شو، په هرات کې بانک چور شو. هغه لوژستیکي ډیپوګان چې د افغانستان حکومت په شل کاله کې ذخیره کړي وو د اردوی ملي لپاره یا د پولیسو لپاره یا د دولت لپاره، لوژستیکي ډیپوګان ذخیرې طالبانو په خپل سر چور کړي، خرڅ یې کړي. مکاتب پوهنتونونه بند شول. ښځې او نجونې د کار او تعلیم څخه منع شوې په زوره. حتی ښځې ووهل شوې، د کلاشینکوف په کنداغ ووهل شوې، د کلاشینکوف په نوک ووهل شوې، تر ویښتانو کش شوې. او زنداني شوې د طالبانو په توګه. تر اوسه هم د طالبانو په زندانونو کې داسې ښځې زنداني دي چې هغوی د خپل حقوقو لپاره غږ پورته کړی و. سیاسي او مدني دیموکراتیک فعالیتونه په افغانستان کې طالبانو بند کړل. د بیان ازادي بنده شوه. متقاعدینو چې خپل حقوق درلوده، د متقاعدینو افسرانو، منصبدارانو، مامورینو تنخواګانې، هغه تقاعدي د دوی حقوق بند شوه، تر اوسه پورې بند دي، نه ورکوي. په ډېرو ځایو کې د داسې خلکو چې واسطه یې نه درلوده، وسه یې نه درلوده، د خلکو شخصي کورونه طالبانو په زور ونیول، تر اوسه پکې ژوند کوي. څو ځله د کابل ښار، د هرات ښار، د مزار ښار، د لوګر ښارونه څو ځله کور په کور تلاشي شول، په خپل سر بې له کوم دلیله، بې له کومه یو قانوني وجې د خلکو کورو ته داخل شول، د خلکو کورونه یې تلاشي کړه، خلک یې بې عزته کړل. پخوا په افغانستان کې داسې د ډېره وخته داسې یو اصول و چې هر قوم به خپل مشر درلودی، په محلو کې، په کلیو کې به دغه خلکو قومي جوړې روړې د قومو مشرانو کول، ملکانو، اربابانو به د خلکو روړې جوړې کول. په داسې حال کې چې دوی د خلکو په رواجو باندې بلدیات هم نه لري. د خلکو شخصي پیسې چې په بانکو کې وي تر اوسه پورې هغه طالبانو بندي کړي دي. اول شپه کې خو $200 په هفته کې یو سړي اجازه درلوده، خو اوس یې لږ زیاتې کړي دي، خو تر اوسه پورې د خلکو پیسې په بانکو کې بندي. بیکاري او غربت ورځ تر بلې مخ په زیاتېدو دی. د طالبانو مشر د هیبت الله اخوندزاده په نوم تر اوسه پورې چا نه دی لیدلی، نه یې څوک لیدلی شي. هیبت الله اخوندزاده د افغانستان خلک صرف د یو عکس د روی پیژني. هغه عکس تقریبا 8 کاله مخکې پر میډیا راغلی، تر اوسه هغه یو عکس دی، کله چپه سي کله راسته سي. نور نه هیبت الله اخوندزاده چا لیدلی دی، نه یې څوک لیدلی شي. د کندهار په ښار په جنوب کې یو سیمه ده په نامه د نورزو شابرج. هلته یو کالوني ده، تقریبا 14 غټ کورونه دي. دلته د ISI قرارګاه ده. د ISI مشاورین دي. همدغه کالوني امیرالمؤمنین دي، همدغه کالوني امارات دي. دولتي ادارې لکه وزارتونه، ولایتونه، دا د طالبانو د شخصي شرکتو حیثیت لري. یو طالب وزیر دی، خپل زوی بېله مسؤلیت، وراره، د اکا زوی، د ماما زوی، خوریی بېله دې څخه چې رسمي دنده ولري، هغوی وزارت کې ځای پر ځای شوي دي. د وزارت ټول اختیارات او قراردادونه هر څه د دوی په واک کې دي، تغییر و تبدیل. د دنیا د مختلفو تروریستي ډلو حضور په افغانستان کې دا وخت ثابت دی. ټول افغانان یې ویني، دنیا هم په خبره ده، لکه داعش، لکه القاعده، لکه TTP د پاکستان، لکه ایغور د چینایانو، لکه د سنټرل ایشیا تروریستي ډلې، دا ټول په افغانستان کې ځای پر ځای دي او د طالبانو په حمایت هلته ژوند کوي. ډېر وبخښئ ستاسو وخت مې ونه وي، همدغه د افغانستان هغه عموما وضعیت دی. خو په هر صورت موږ ناامیده نه یو، موږ انشاءالله امیدواره یو. دا ورځې به تېرې شي، دا ورځې به تغییر وکړي او طالب به ورکېږي، انشاءالله افغانان به متحد کېږي او بېرته به په خپل وطن کې راټولېږي. تشکر ستاسو د توجه سره مننه.
Thanks, Commander Lang, for that. It does paint a quite bleak picture of what's going on over in Afghanistan. So thank you for letting people know, because I think a lot of people don't understand what's actually going on over there. So it's from the ground truth. So, you know, if you could ask me a follow-up question on that, maybe you can help facilitate the question. So, you know, now that you have Iran, the issue in Iran, where Iran has expelled, deported almost 2 million Afghans from the country because they believe that Afghanistan is responsible for leaking information to Mossad, and then turn why the U.S. and Israel struck Iran. So they're blaming the Afghan people or Afghan source or person, and in their response, the QF is deporting all Afghan people from Iran are out. So we have almost 2 million people now. Afghans are being pushed out of Iran, whether they were there for a week, a year, or 10 years, or were born and raised in Iran. They're now being forcibly removed. So with that, just a sense of what is going on presently. The question, Commander Malek, for you would be, what is the perceptions, what has been going on with the refugee crisis, and how are those people that are being moved from Iran going back to Taliban rule under a regime who doesn't have enough to take care of the people as is? What's the impact on the civilians there?
زه خو د ایرانیانو په پالیسي باندې بلد نه یم خو اورو د میډیا څخه چې ایرانیان په یو بهانه بل بهانه باندې دوی افغانان ډیپورټ کوي افغانان باسي خو دومره پوهېږم چې په افغانستان کې دننه د دې خلکو لپاره د ژوند آمادګي ډېره کمه ده د ژوند کولو کار نشته بېکاري ده او 2 میلیونه خلک مهاجر چې دا وخت افغانستان ته ځي اکثرا هغه خلک دي چې د طالبانو سپېرانه شوي دي د دوی خلکو ژوند په خطر کې دي په افغانستان کې د مرګ سره دوی مخامخ دي د شکنجې سره مخامخ دي د بند تهدید ورته متوجه دي ډېر خلکو ما ته ځنګونه ولیدل او ډېر خلک په تشویش کې دي چې آینده کېدلی چې طالبان په دې مهاجرو کې یو تعداد خلک ونیسي بندیان یې کړي یو تعداد مړه کړي یو تعداد شکنجه کړي اما د کار خو دوی نه ورکوي دې خلکو ته طالب نه کار ورکوي نه په افغانستان کې د کار زمینه شته نه هلته د افغانستان موجوده اقتصاد د دې تقاضا کوي چې دا خلک هلته پاسته دا یو بحران دی د مهاجرو تګ که د پاکستان ځي که د ایران ځي افغانستان ته دا په افغانانو باندې هلته یو فشار دی او دا یو بحران دی
So how does the Taliban deal with the refugees? Do they see them that they left? Do they treat them poorly because they left? Do they put them with is there extra scrutiny tied against them?
طالبان د پسپکه سترګه دې خلکو ته ګوري تهدید ورکوي تاسو تښتېدلي یاست تاسو فراریان یاست تاسو مختلف نومونه پرېږدي تاسو د امریکایانو سره کار کړی وو تاسو یعنې مختلف رنګارنګ تهدیدونه د دوی ته د طالبانو خاصه متوجه دي
Okay, great. Thank you for that. It's just giving everybody the insight on what it's actually like, what's happening down there. But thank you. And I want to talk about, maybe moving to Colonel Forlani, where we talk about the civilians, what's happening there, the refugees, not good, what's happening to them. They're being treated poorly, but there's a whole military that worked with the U.S. for 20 years, who now, amnesty is the word that they use, that come, admit that you work for the U.S., no problem, we'll take you in and you'll be safe under the Taliban. Can you tell us a bit about what it's like with the military and the Afghan soldiers?
Thank you, Mr. Mike. Good evening, everyone. Yes, unfortunately, after the fall of Afghanistan in 2021, August 2021, which the same day as today, 4 years ago, when the government fell in Afghanistan, when the Taliban took over, they said that we have forgiven everyone. You guys can live here, you can stay here, we're not going to arrest you, we're not going to kill you. But I can tell you the numbers, how many people they have so far arrested and how many people they have so far killed. In the last 4 years, Taliban arrested 14,000 AFG-U.S members. 14,000. Some were released and they were killed after they were released. And they killed 11,000 AFG-U.S soldiers, officers, NCOs, even generals. It is 11,000. In the last 3 months, they killed like 59 AFG soldiers that we have documented, and I have their photos, their names, and everything that the Taliban killed them in the last 3 months. We have been following this, and the life for the AFG is really hard for them. They cannot work because Taliban are not allowing them to work. They cannot join the Taliban's military or army because they have once fought with them and they are not allowing them to join their ranks. So it's really hard for them. They cannot work, they are not safe, they don't have food, they don't have like health care or nothing. So they are not safe and they have been followed by the Taliban. The recent crisis, as the Iranian and Pakistanis were deporting Afghans, in the last 2 months, about 1,050 AFG soldiers have been arrested by Taliban in the last 3 months, and they were in prison. And they were basically, they have just the biometrics in the border. Whenever people are crossing, they're just taking their biometrics and then putting them to the jail.
That's terrible. Just kind of hearing all, it's bleak, everything's, it's really chaotic, it sounds scary actually for most people. What, I guess, for the audience, and more, David on the line, you have a strategic background, you've kind of seen it on the ground from a journalist perspective, but you've also written extensively on this. Can you kind of tell us what the global powers are doing, what other nations are kind of doing? Are they aware of this? Do they know this is happening? Are they turning a blind eye? Like, what's it look like from a global perspective? I think you need to.
Let me start again.
Yeah, thank you.
There's been a lot of reporting internationally from the United Nations in particular, regular 6-month reports saying quite how bad things are in Afghanistan, particularly in terms of the terrorist links that the Taliban have. We know, and the international community have seen the reports of the appalling conditions that women have in Afghanistan. We've heard from General Parwani graphic accounts of the problems that former soldiers and others are having in the country. So I think this is known, it is well known, it's being ignored in a number of Western countries who frankly should know better. They're ignoring the reports that they see in front of them for their own short-term advantages. And we've seen now only Russia has actually formally recognized the Taliban administration as an administration and shared ambassadors. But there are a number of countries, China, Turkey, Pakistan, a number of others who have de facto ambassadors. They haven't formally recognized the Taliban, but they have consulates in each other's countries and talk to the Taliban on a regular basis. And we're beginning to see some Western countries following this really sorry route, and Germany is the leader of this. Germany recently closed down the embassy that, in a number of countries, the embassies of the Republic did remain open, but Germany's closed theirs down and effectively given Taliban diplomatic representation in Germany. That's really in order for them to be able to say it's normal in Afghanistan so they can return refugees and asylum seekers who are seeking asylum in Germany. So it is for very short-term political gain in a number of countries. Russia for their own ends, some of the neighbours because they might want to get something out of Afghanistan, and some Western countries now beginning to move towards recognition of the Taliban for their own, as I say, very short-term political gain. And the countries that have been trying to really engage the Taliban in any sort of talks process to try to move them towards some kind of more conciliatory action, more inclusive government, rights for women, etc. There has been a UN process, but it's failed dismally. There have been 3 meetings in Doha, and the last 2 meetings, really, the Taliban treated with total contempt. And a number of countries, the United States, the United Kingdom, and others, are still just holding on to this process, but it hasn't got any sort of traction at all. So I think it's a really sad tale in terms of the countries that are beginning to legitimize the Taliban, and at the same time not give any support to the republic that so much support was given to over 20 years, the democratically elected republic. A number of their senior officials and senior opposition leaders, civil society leaders, are now in the West, and they've been organizing different opposition groups. I've been to a number of meetings of the Vienna process and so on, which is the most sort of positive of them, which have been trying to create a political opposition to the Taliban, but they do it with very small private funding, no support from Western governments, no support certainly from China, Russia, and the region. So you have a situation where all of the efforts are put on trying to engage with this misogynist terrorist regime, and there's no effort in trying to build any kind of a political opposition.
Thanks. And then if you just think about the political landscape is bleak. It doesn't look like Western nations are really trying to support. They're kind of hands off whatever the political cycle might be. But now you have the people, right? The people that matter. So how do we help? How do they get help? It doesn't seem like they did much. But with poverty, refugees, come radicalization, opportunity to they can't make any money, but the bad guys will offer them some money to do some bad stuff. So David and Sarah on the line, can you guys kind of move to Sarah? Can you kind of talk about like that radicalization or the chance for that, and then what is actually happening right now? Is it happening today?
Yeah, I'm a little less concerned about the radicalization. Taliban really wants to force people, right? But one of the things they're doing that's really concerning is they're telling the international aid community, the UN, the World Bank, IOM, etc., that we're getting all these returnees from Iran and Pakistan, so you have to give us more aid to go to these returning refugees. But then the Taliban is not rolling that money down to the refugees, and they're investing that money into their terrorist infrastructure. The money is actually going to foreign fighters coming into the country, not Afghans returning. So they're not getting any social services or support, even though very large sums of money are going in to actually help those people being returned. So it's a double-edged sword, as you can imagine. And then, of course, as they come in and horrible things happen to them, or they get blackmailed, yes, they can be radicalized. But again, this is helping fund a whole terror pipeline that people kind of ignore.
David, you have something to say on that too, as well?
Well, yes, and I completely agree with Sarah. I'm on the same page there. And I think, in a way, the Taliban have very successfully siphoned off so much aid from the international community. They found ways of stealing it. But there comes a point when I would argue that international aid is doing more harm than good in Afghanistan, because it is just enabling the Taliban to fund their own security operations and to steal most of the aid for themselves. And in terms of the wider population, of course it's been terrible for refugees who recently returned, but there are tens of millions of dollars that go into Afghanistan from refugees around the world, from the diaspora. So a lot more money flows into Afghanistan in remittances from families abroad to support their families in Afghanistan than coming in aid. And I think there's a strong argument for saying that the aid is really now doing more harm than good, particularly when it's not attached to any kind of a wider political strategy, any kind of sense of trying to return Afghanistan to the republic that we all want to see, and to return it to the family of nations with some kind of security for itself and its neighbours, which so many people in the country want, and so many people outside the country, so many of those people who are now stuck in the West want. And knowing that there is no will in the international community and no current policy to try to secure that, and we'll come on to this later on in the conference this evening, but it looks as if increasingly the only solution is going to be a military one.
Sarah, can you talk about, you said that they're incentivized to fund these terrorist groups. Can you tell me why they're incentivized to do that? And then what's it look like there? What does the terrorist networks look like? Why? How big is it? Is it happening? And what's the plan? What's the gain of the Taliban to have them in the background?
Sure. I think there's like misconception. They're not incentivized to fund the terrorist groups. They're incentivized to fund their family members, right? So for the last 2 decades, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, the Haqqanis have all been intermarrying, right? So now we're at 2nd and 3rd generation. A 2nd generation funder, he's a Bin Laden, right? And he's a Haqqani, like by blood, right? 3rd generation, it's even tighter. So just really quick, if we just do 3 marriages, because we couldn't do all months of marriages. So if we just do Hamza Bin Laden, he married 4 women, okay? 2 of them are, one is the daughter of Mullah Omar, one's the daughter of Jalaluddin Haqqani. Saad Bin Laden married 2 women, one is the daughter of Jalaluddin Haqqani. Abdullah Bin Laden married 3 women, 1 fiance died. The fiance who died was Mullah Omar's daughter. One of his alive wives is the daughter of Mullah Akhtar Muhammad Mansour, right? So there is no separation in the 2nd generation between Al-Qaeda, Taliban, and Haqqanis. So that's one piece, it's family. The other piece is obviously, as you know, Taliban's kind of flipped on Pakistan, and they have goals in Pakistan, so they're giving a safe haven to groups like TTP, for example. Jaish-e-Mohammed is there, Lashkar-e-Taiba is there, Tariqat-ul-Mujahideen. All of them have moved in and set up camps in Afghanistan, Baluchistan, Liberation Army, etc. So all these groups now are in Afghanistan. They're creating almost like a global Islamic army, and then everything is emanating out. So we just are back to basically the terrorist base is now Afghanistan, and they're trying to recruit all the terrorist groups who come there, train there, send their leaders there to be protected.
And just to add to that, the Biden hope that there would be some kind of counter-terrorism deal between the Taliban and the U.S. administration against Islamic State, but that's never really proved to create anything. I mean, it was a dream of the last administration, but it was just a fantasy from the very beginning. So, and I think there is some optimism from this current United States administration. President Trump talks a lot about the Bagram air base and the fact that China might take Bagram, and that he clearly sees that as a strategic opportunity. And I think if this administration can be persuaded that there are commercial opportunities in Afghanistan, which there certainly are, there might be some kind of a difference there. But as Sarah said, it's a pretty frightening terrorist story, and that should really focus minds in the White House and in Washington.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that just flagging that, I think that's kind of like a due diligence for everybody to talk about those things and raise the awareness that it's actually not just an Afghanistan problem, it's a global problem. And the evidence is mountains of it, right? There's so much evidence that says that. Thank you all on the panel here. I know we're running out of time for the first bit. Keep you guys here to have our questions and answers afterwards. Thanks so much for attending or for responding there. But I'll open the floor. We have some time for questions. Maybe? Yeah? One question? Anyone has a? Sir.
Let's first I will speak in English, ask question, then I will tell Commander Mullah in Pashto.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay.
The myself, I'm from the mountain area, the people will hear my sound.
Okay, perfect.
The chaotic in Afghanistan is not simply one-side Taliban. Taliban, the illustration of Taliban completely wasn't correct. Taliban is an element of Pakistan, educated in madrasa, came to Afghanistan. There is nothing indirectly a government of Taliban. There is a guideline of Pakistan. You saw last month, China called Pakistan, Afghanistan, they are committing Peking. That's all. China, Russia will never help Afghanistan. Putin, except former Taliban, will never accept. Russian will withdraw from Afghanistan in 1989. They never help Afghanistan. They will never help also, never. That they did for their own goal to do their business in South Asia.
Yeah.
That's exactly. My question to Commander Mullah is really, say that agreement of Doha is one side. It wasn't one side. There is an issue, he has to reply. We are just talking about one side of the subject. We have to think about the whole subject. United States was 20 years there, established U.S. Afghan army, over 300,000. Our forces, government, were there. Taliban, the most possible, I'm Afghan, I grew up on the same, I know. Yeah. Taliban with the wrong Kalashnikov in a few motorcycles, how can able to capture a country?
Yeah.
Well, the problem is existing. That agreement of Doha wasn't one side. The agreement of Doha, first phase was between the United States and Taliban. The second phase was to Afghan government do peace with Taliban. They didn't. They weren't qualified. They ran away. Taliban at the last minute on August did not fight. When they captured the Kabul palace, swear, go see it, it wasn't fighting. The vice president of Ghani, Amrullah Saleh, said last week in the news, okay, Taliban using mind power or something like that. That's not true. A week ago, top officers, including defense minister, was running from the ground. Then Taliban is a fanatic extremist of Pakistan. Afghanistan has in this region three enemies. First is Pakistan, second is Iran, third is Turkey. These are enemies. If someone say about this, why they do it with the refugee, you are such a nice young American, I love that. I will tell you, Iran is enemy of Afghanistan. They have their own special interest. Iran, Pakistan will never be friend of Afghanistan. I'm challenging them, anybody, I'm 70 years old, used to be professor of university in Afghanistan. I'm challenging you, there is no, because Pakistan captured the part of Afghanistan, and also Iran has the border issue. China will never help Afghanistan. China looking how to steal the Afghan mineral into that. That's by who are they doing? By force of Pakistan. China did not do it himself. That philosophy of that guideline coming from Pakistan, coming from Punjab.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that he said one side, that deal wasn't one side, that has a beginning as two sides. Third, the second phase went to Ghani. Ghani wasn't qualified. Yeah. Ghani wasn't qualified to use this power in defend this country. We are left out. The Taliban is an extreme element. Why we complaining from enemy? There is no reason to be complaining from a crazy guy, fundamentalist like Haibatullah. Why should we be complaining? We already know he's a crazy. Yeah. We already know he's element of Pakistan. Right. There is no such Afghan government. In the last 50 years, there is no government in Afghanistan. Right. Well, as people be able to do the democracy in Afghanistan, what's happened in election between Ali and Abdullah? Tell me. In one day, two presidents, one was sworn in one side, the other. That's a chaotic problem, has so many elements. Yeah. And I love that the people talk about the refugee. Western country has to help Afghanistan in this situation. Kids are dying, kids are killing, people are killing. Taliban, it was clear Taliban, but Taliban was a tourist. The tourist in one night is get what's the guy? You get a good guy. Haqqani got a good guy. And Batullah got a good guy. In one night, that's no way. That's all problem of Pakistan. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
Well, that'll conclude the first panel. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for supporting Maryland. Sarah, David, thanks so much for joining, tuning in. We'd love to keep you here for the rest of the night, so feel free to stay on. A lot of people have some questions for you offline. So that concludes this. We're going to transition to a quick break and then switch out for the next panel. So take a break and come back. Get ready. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Khan. I'm honored to moderate this panel discussion on one of the most pressing and emotional topics we face as community. What are the solutions to the problems Afghanistan faces today? I'm a good friend of John Salah, who's here joined us online. I know him for at least 2 years now. I work for Afghan and American. I was born in Afghanistan in Kabul, but I moved to the States when I was a young teenager. I know the journal for 2 years now at least, and there's so much about the cause of this mission of the Afghan-United front that resonates with me because of the liberation of Afghanistan, also because of the values that it stands for. So thank you again for coming today on this historic day that is the 4th anniversary of the fall of Kabul. We are joined by a group of distinguished voices, strategists, thinkers, and practitioners at today's the second panel tonight that I'm going to be moderating. They bring both lived experience and strong insights to this conversation. Over the next half an hour or so, we'll explore ideas, strategies, and possibilities for a better future for Afghanistan. Among our panelists, we have Mr. Nasrat Sabahizadeh, and he's a well-known Afghan advocate, organizer, a counterterrorism, counter-narcotics expert. He also worked as an Interpol director at Afghanistan's Ministry of Interior under the former Republic of Afghanistan. And he brings a lot of experience when it comes to terrorism, counterterrorism, fighting narcotics, as well as the law enforcement. And then we also, as part of our panel, we have Mr. Fawad Betanai. Please join us. He is a senior advisor to the Afghan-United Front, and he's also a policy expert. He brings a lot of expertise when it comes to diplomacy. He was part of the diplomatic work for a long time. And he's been also deeply involved in shaping frameworks for a post-Taliban Afghanistan. And then Mr. Dr. David Kaplan was supposed to be our third panelist, which unfortunately could not make it due to some flight issues. And we have got a video for him, so which we're gonna have it, we're gonna broadcast it towards the end of the panel. And he is also an expert, a leading strategist and counterinsurgency expert. He has written many books on Afghanistan, counterinsurgency, and was advised senior U.S. and NATO officials. So we will have unfortunately we don't have him, so he sent his apologies, but because he was on a military flight, but we're gonna have a video for him. So with that, we're gonna start the panel, and as I mentioned, today's panel is about what are the solutions to the current crisis that Afghanistan, the problems that Afghanistan is facing. To set the stage, this question is for both of you, for both our panelists. And how would each of you define the most urgent problem Afghanistan is facing today? Whether it's political, security related, or humanitarian. And why does it matter now more than ever? We can start with you, Mr.
Well, it's obviously actually all three of them, as you mentioned. At this point in Afghanistan, we don't have security for sure. We don't have, educational platform for any Afghan citizens, including Afghan women, Afghan children, Afghan girls, and as well as the Afghan adult male. So it's very important actually at this point that the United States of America actually deals with the Taliban, with the Doha Agreement, and now it's past 4 years, and within 4 years, internationally we have seen that whatever actually that a human being can expect from a government, the Taliban are not capable to provide that. They are a terrorist organization, and they cannot provide any aspect of human being on any part of the life for any gender, not for male, not for female. So that's why all three aspects that you mentioned are important, and we have to act very aggressively actually to the solution where we can actually provide more prosperity for the Afghan people as well.
Thank you so much. وهذه سؤال مع الشموع قائلة تتناسب بصومك مبارمترين وجديدترين مشكلة أفغانستان فعلا ضرورة واجهة سنزل شمال سياسة جد نزلها نتي وشا مشاكل سنة وشا ويكد سليم زمین وشا
بنام خداوند بخشایان می‌روم بنام خداوند که زمین و آسمان ها را خلق کرد و همچنان حکمت و علم را چرا برای بشریت قرار داد و انسان چرا که نمی‌دانست برایش الهام بخشید و قلم را خواندن آموخت دیگه welcome ladies and gentlemen اول از باید تکرار کنم که متأسفانه عکس همراه بود نیستم دیگه دوستان لطف کردن من دعوت کردن دیگه انشاءالله که یک تحمل پنج دقیقه‌شون این مرحله داشته باشیم وقتی که ما در افغانستان تقریبا امروز 15 آگوست است 4مین سالگرد به حساب تسلط طالبان بر افغانستان وقتی که ما 40-50 سال تاریخ افغانستان رو مطالعه می‌کنیم متأسفانه تقریبا 6-7 بار نظام‌ها در افغانستان تغییر کرده نظام‌ها تغییر کرده و تمام تغییراتی که در افغانستان رخ داده همگیشان به حساب تشریف کننده بود اصلاح کننده نبود ولی وجود جمهوریت وقتی که ما به جمهوریت نگاه میکنیم با آمدن جمهوریت در افغانستان اولین بار یک نظام اصلاح کننده بود در وقت جمهوریت وقتی که ما روابط دیپلماتیک افغانستان رو میبینیم در تاریخ افغانستان بی‌نظیر بود روابط دیپلماتیک افغانستان وقتی که ما وضعیت اقتصادی افغانستان رو میبینیم وقتی که ما کمک‌های مالی جهان بر افغانستان میبینیم در تاریخ افغانستان بی‌نظیر بود وقتی که ما رشد اقتصادی افغانستان و حساب همچنان وقتی که سطح بالابرد تعلیم تربیت در افغانستان ببینیم در تاریخ افغانستان بی‌نظیر بود و همچنان یک از بزرگترین دستاوردهای افغانستان قانون اساسی افغانستان بود قانون اساسی افغانستان در وقت جمهوریت در تاریخ افغانستان بی‌نظیر بود و همچنان در سطح منطقه یک از بهترین قانون‌های اساسی در سطح منطقه در افغانستان بود در قانون اساسی افغانستان وقتی که ما نگاه میکنیم قوای قضاییه، قوای اجراییه، قوای مقننه در قانون اساسی افغانستان تضمین شده بود، ذکر شده بود. حق حقوق به حساب اقلیت ها، حق حقوق حاکمیت قانون، حقوق بشر تمامش ذکر شده بود. ولی متاسفانه با آمدن طالبان ما تمام این دستاوردها را از دست دادیم. به ترجمه ضرورت است ادامه بدم. ما با آمدن طالبان متاسفانه تمام این دستاوردها را از دست دادیم. با آمدن طالبان نه تنها این ارزش‌ها را از دست دادیم، بلکه امروز افغانستان با یک مشکل بقا مواجه است. امروز افغانستان طالبان با ستون فقرات افغانستان بازی میکنند. من به طور مثال یکی از این دستاوردها را مثلا یکی از این مشکلات‌ها را میتونم بحث کنم. مسئله تعلیم تربیت در افغانستان. وقتی ما مسئله تعلیم تربیت در افغانستان می‌بینیم، با آمدن طالبان تمام سیستم تعلیم تربیت در افغانستان از بین رفت. روابط دیپلماتیک افغانستان خیلی اصلا وجود ندارد. سرمایه‌گذاری بر روی فروپاشی سیستم تعلیم تربیت افغانستان تمامش از بین رفت. دیگر سیستم تعلیم تربیت من می‌خواستم یک بحث کوتاه کنم در این مورد که یکی از بزرگترین دانشمندان جهان میگه اگر شما می‌خواهید یک کشور را از بین ببرید، ضرورت نیست شما سر از کشور به مخصوص استفاده کنید. ضروری است که کافی است که شما سیستم تعلیمی یک کشور از بین ببرید. چیزی رو که عملاً طالبان بود انجام دادند. طالبان خانم‌ها را از مکتب از تحصیل دور ساختند. امروز خانمایی که 50% جامعه افغانستان را به حساب تشکیل میدن، باقی مانده 50% تربیت میدن. امروز خانم‌ها حق نداره که مکتب برن. طالب‌ها افغانستان دانشگاه‌ها، پرتون‌های افغانستان را به دارالعلوم تبدیل کردند. مکاتب را مدرسه تبدیل کردند. دیگر متأسفانه که ستون فقرات افغانستان از بین بردند. یکی از بزرگترین چالش‌هایی است که در افغانستان که صورت گرفته. دوام سخن می‌خواد یا خب درست است.
Thank you so much. That's a very comprehensive picture of giving the today's Afghanistan problems as well as difficulties it's facing. And also like looking back how the Republic, the U.S.-backed government in Afghanistan, despite its flaws, how much it was still a hope, a possibility for so many people, especially the young, the youth, the majority of families, as well as the women and girls. And then it was an honorable government, despite its flaws, and it was a nascent democracy, and it did have a lot of benefits, and it did have a lot of potential. Mr. Splazala, the next question is to you. And you bring a lot of expertise when it comes to, you're wearing a lot of hats, counterterrorism, counter-narcotics, as well as helping and training so many Afghan U.S. advisors that they used to be sent to Afghanistan. And you've seen the Republic from the beginning, 2000, early 2000s to the end of the Republic. So, looking back, and now, given that we're looking for a solution to the problems facing Afghanistan right now, from your perspective, what specific forms of international support, whether diplomatic, informational, or technical, would be most effective in empowering Afghan opposition, which the EU is leading, at the forefront of?
It's very interesting actually to see how the international community after 2021 has turned their back to Afghanistan. I remember actually, I've worked since 2002, until the end, until recently, with all my life actually I worked actually with Afghanistan-related projects and stuff. So we were hoping that the international community would never ever turn their back for Afghanistan. It's for the greater, for the best cause of their own security, for our security, and as well as actually for international interest. Unfortunately, all of Kabul actually taught us that there has to be something wrong. I would definitely actually talk about the Biden administration which they did not actually recognize the actual threat to the international community through the Taliban. And there has to be some sort of accountability in order to bring stability, not to Afghanistan only, but also for the entire world. And Taliban are Taliban. They are a terrorist organization, no matter what. It does not matter actually that they have adopted, being able to come in front of the TV and talk to the journalists and stuff. They are the same organization actually who give refuge to Osama bin Laden, to Al Qaeda, to other organizations in Afghanistan. And they needs to be treated as they are the terrorist organization. Unfortunately, we have seen countries actually that they want to deal with Taliban, but that's wrong. They will be actually creating more threat to not to Afghanistan's and Afghanistan's people, but also to the international community. The AUF is the only solution in order to bring change to the entire world and to secure the entire world. And I would urge actually for the U.S. government actually to reconsider the policy in terms of Taliban.
What kind of support, just a quick follow-up question, an organization like the EUF would need from this administration, the current administration, from your perspective to do well or to go back and live at Afghanistan?
Well, they know that
U.S. government actually, by now actually know that Taliban are not the future of Afghanistan. They are a terrorist organization actually who banned the education in Afghanistan. They have banned education for women. There's no women's rights. There's no human rights. There's no animal rights. There's no right for whatsoever actually that comes to your mind. And not only that actually, but they are a threat for the entire world. At this point, with the entire United States equipment and the military support and everything, all the equipment and everything else actually that was let Taliban actually to take over during the fall of Kabul, Taliban are much more stronger at this point. So considering that, they are even bigger threat for the United States, for the international world, and as well as for the Afghanistan. So the only thing that they can do is actually, they would have to find actually the alternative, and there is no alternative but AUF. We're the only alternative actually that we could get on the ground and tackle the Taliban, and we are the future of Afghanistan. You are the future of Afghanistan. Every single person actually over here are the future of Afghanistan, and they can run it. We believe in peace. We believe in human rights. We believe in future. We believe in prosperity. We believe in diplomacy, and we believe in women's rights. We believe in constitution. We believe in republic, and we're the future. We're the only solution. There is no other solution.
Thank you so much, Mr. Spazella. It's a great answer. Appreciate it. My next question would be to our former panelist, who is still part of the virtual discussion here. Sarah, I wanted to ask you, and this is relevant to you and your experience being involved in Afghanistan for a long time. Do you believe Western governments are understanding the long-term security risks of a Taliban-controlled Afghanistan? And if so, what is the strategic case for a renewed engagement?
I think she's on.
Sorry, maybe you're offline or you're muted. If you want, I can repeat the question, but the question was related to you. It's okay. We can, maybe she's offline. I'm going to ask the next question to Mr. Betanaisa, and it's سوالك أورد توجه شماس از نظر شما با تجربه شما در افغانستان داریم و در این حال در بخش دیاسپورا نقشه رای سیاسی روشن در اپوزیسیون افغانستان.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Sorry, I was trying to my headphones. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, no worries at all. I'm going to repeat the question. So, do you believe...
Sorry.
No worries at all. Do you believe Western governments are underestimating the long-term security risks of a Taliban-controlled Afghanistan? And if that is the case, what is the strategic case for renewed engagement from your perspective?
Yeah, so one of the issues is that Western governments actually really believe that the Taliban is fighting ISIS. The Taliban has done some really smart things to make them think that, like they get like ISP operatives sent to like Germany, for example, and then they give German authorities that person's name and they're not going to do much in an attack, like they're going to do a stabbing attack. The Germans pick up that ISIS person and then they say, yes, Taliban is a good counterterrorism partner. They gave us as ISIS terrorists, we detain them, etc. So there's all these ruses going on where our governments actually believe on the Taliban is fighting ISIS. Even just last month, the U.S. government gave $86 million to the Taliban after they lied to the U.S. government and said that they killed Rajab Salawati, the number 2 of the Islamic State Khorasan province. The funny part is he showed up at a meeting with Al-Qaeda last week, right? So the problem is all this misinformation coming from the Taliban to these intelligence agencies, the U.S., Germany, Britain, etc., is giving them a distorted view of what's happening on the ground, so they're not making correct assessments about the future threat then of all these actors in Afghanistan.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very important and useful. So, from just a follow-up question from your perspective, what would be the solution to that problem? And who should the administration or the U.S. government talk to? Is it like organizations like the EUF, who is like determined to go back and liberate Afghanistan? You can also provide intelligence and have this mission and values which align pretty much very close to that of the U.S.
Yeah, so that's really complicated. As you know, the U.S. government has kind of almost put like a lid on working with resistance and think the resistance is going to give biased information. It's a very frustrating thing. But there's also another angle that nobody knows is happening. So there is all these kind of, the best way to call them is double agents. I don't want it to sound crazy, but there's people pretending to be resistance, pretending to be female activists, and they're meeting with officials in the U.S. government and providing Taliban information, supporting Taliban narratives. The famous one is the Taliban isn't going to allow Al-Qaeda to strike on U.S. soil. So the U.S. government actually does believe that they're meeting with some people who are in the resistance, female activists, and they're giving them a rosy picture because they're being paid off also by the Taliban. So the Taliban has been very, very smart. They're hitting this from a bunch of different angles, and this is actually a counterintelligence problem. So until someone can fix that piece, the misinformation is just out of control, and you can keep giving a little bit, here's facts, here's facts, here's facts, but then when you have the Taliban providing something, a person pretending they were resistance, a person who used to be a U.S. ally on counterterrorism, and then you have the Taliban saying stuff on phones, and the NSA is collecting that, and it's all aligning, and it all confirms itself, and this is a really big problem and a big hurdle to get over, unfortunately.
Thank you, Sarah. Always appreciate your perspective. Appreciate it. ما حسب شما مصور خدمت شما رسمی کنم خدمت مثل از نظر شما بزرگترین مشکلی که اپوزیسیون ضد طالبان نیست وقتی که متفق شدن و اطاعت کنند چی است؟ مشکل داخلی چرا یک جمعه میشه برنامه مثل جمعیت مثل ایویف در اساس کاربر ضد طالب داشته باشه و وارد در نامشن چی است؟
من میخوام صحبت قبل دوام بکنم بعد از یک از تصاویر قانون اساسی افغانستان بود که اولین دکتاتوری افغانستان یعنی انتخاب ولی متاسفانه امروز با اونم طالبان از بین رفت. امروز زمانداری افغانستان شخصی پیش بره که تمام افغانستان در بین دو لبه است. اگر اون شخص باید که آنها باید مکتب نره، آنها مکتب هستن. هر تصمیمی در مورد افغانستان بگیره، تمام افغانستان 35 میلیون دوست افغانستان در بین دو لبه یک شخص. متاسفانه که تمام نظام از بین رفت. یک مشکل اساسی وجود داره که امروز طالبان به شکل برده. من طالبان یک گروه سیاسی نیستن. طالبان یک گروه عقیده نیستن. طالبان مشکلات داخلی خود سیاسی دارن. طالبان امروز مشکلات ولایتی دارن. طالبان مشکلات مذهبی دارن. طالبان مشکلات کشمکش‌های قدرت داخلی خود دارن. در صورتی که طالبان از یک گروه عقیدتی به گروه سیاسی تبدیل شود، دیگر طالبان وجود نداره. طالبان بین مشکلات داخلیشون از بین میبرن. بنابراین طالبان به خود درک میکنن و طالبان امروز به نام امارت یک کلمه را ساختن و زیر چتر امارت میخواهیم که طالبان را نگه داشته باشند. یعنی کلمه امیرالمؤمنین رو موظف دادن و این کلمه نظر به چی دینی اطاعت از امیرالمؤمنین واجب است. با این کلمه میتونه که تمام این کشمکش‌های داخلیشون زیر چتر این کلمه بتونن خود کنند. یک مشکل اساسی با جامعه افغانستان دارد. امروز جامعه افغانستان ندانست که با طالبان سازش کنه. و طالبان پلانشون خیلی چیز بسیار پلان خطرناکی داره که قبل من گفتم که اینا با ستون فقرات افغانستان بازی میکنن. اینا نتونستن با جامعه افغانستان سازش کنن و امروز میخواهند که تمام افغانستان طالبانیزه بسازن. یعنی دانشگاه افغانستان دارالعلوم میسازن، مکاتب و مدرسه میسازن. تمام افغانستان میخواهند که مثبتشون فکر کنن، مثبتشون ذکر کنن و به اون شکل میخواهند که افغانستان یک کنترل داشته باشن. ولی متاسفانه فکر میکنم به این نتیجهشان نمیرسن. من بیشتر از این که گفتم من با مذاکره با طالبان بسیار باورمند نیستم. دلیلش است وقتی ما 20 سال تاریخ طالبان را می‌بینیم اصلا اینا با مذاکره نکردن. وقتی که ما دوحه می‌بینیم یا اصلا علاقمند به این نبودن که بشینن با افغان‌ها مذاکره کنن. وقتی که ما 4 سال حکومت طالبان را به حساب روز کنترل افغانستان در دست داریم، ما اصلا یک نشانه از طالبان ندیدیم که بخوایم همراه مخالفین یا چیکار مذاکره کنن. من باورمند به مذاکره نیستم. متأسفانه بسیار می‌خواستم میگم بزنم باورمند به مذاکره نیستم. ولی امروز چرا مخالفین طالبان نمیتونن فکر میکنن برای من بسیار اهمیت نداره که چرا نمیتونن نمیتونن خودشون بهتر میکنن. ولی میخوایم من با طالبان چی باید کرد میخوایم اقتصاد کوتاه بخوایم با مثال کنیم. یکی که وظیفه ما شمایی است که ما باید روشنگرایی در بین جامعه افغانستان کنیم. واقع اصل طالبان باید ما مردم افغانستان معرفی کنیم که طالبان با ستون فقرات افغانستان چی بازی کرده است، آینده افغانستان چی خواهد بود. من یکی از مثال‌هایشان را براتون میگم. امروز خانه‌ها در افغانستان به درس و تعلیم رفتن نمی‌کنند. 15 سال بعد شما در افغانستان نخواهد یک دکتر خانه شاید شما پیدا کنید. ولی اگه پیدا کنید به 1 لک به 1.5 لک یک خانم خواهد رسید. یعنی مرگ دیگه خانه‌هایی که برای زایمان بیشتر خواهد شد. اندکترین تکلیف یک خانم وفات خواهد کرد. دلیلش است ما دکتر خانه نداریم. امثال دیگه شما واجه بود. تمام ما این مشکلات رو داریم. بنابراین ما قصه کوتاه رو میکنم، یک حکایه فناور است که سیخ خاصمان میکنم. یک روز یک پرنده پیش حضرت سلیمان علیه السلام به شکایت آمده بود. برشان گفته بود که یکی از شخصا گفته درویش گفته من شکار کرد و بال من شکستان. حضرت سلیمان علیه السلام نفر میفهمه میگه این پرنده از پیش شما شکایت میکنه که شما بال از شکستانه. شکارچی برش میگه من سعید داما برش آمده بودم ولی این پرنده نباید میامد. فطرت پرنده میره ایجاد میکنه وقتی که به انسان نزدیک باید فرار میکرد. ولی فرار نکرد. یعنی گناه من چیه باید فرار میکرد. حضرت سلیمان علیه السلام برش پرنده میگه تو باید فرار میکردی، چرا فرار نکردی؟ پرنده برش میگه که میگه من چی میگم؟ میگه این لباس درویش پوشیده بود. من فکر کردم که درویش دوست خداست و هم مشکلش نمیرسه. بنا میگه من از چی من چی میگم که شکار چیست؟ حضرت سلیمان علیه السلام میبینه میگه این پرنده واقعا میگه باید جزای از این پرنده رو میگه ما باید دست دل بشکنیم. چرا بالا از بشکنیم؟ میگه ما باید دست از این شخص بشکنیم. پرنده برش میگه شما دست دل نشکنیم. میگه چرا فایده نداره. در صورتی که دست دل جوش رو میگه این پس همین کارو میگه. بنابراین میگه شما خواهش میکنم که لباس درویشی رو بپوشید میگه تا مردم به این بازی نداره. من فکر میکنم ما باید واقعا افغانستان ما این لباس درویشی رو باید از طالبان بکشیم و بخوریم که طالبان به نام دین امروز خانوار رو محروم ساخته، به نام دین مردم میشه، به نام دین در افغانستان ظلم میکنه. ما باید این روشنگری در افغانستان کنیم که باید از تن طالبان این لباس دین باید از ما وجودش بکشیم که چیزهایی با به نام دین میکنن که اصلا با دین سازش نداره و واقعا دین تمثیل نمیکنه.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the answer. My next question is for you, Mr. Spezza, and I wanted to ask, you could also address the same question if you wanted to take a lead on that, about what is the biggest internal problem that is preventing Afghan opposition to the Taliban to become united and become a united force, but also since you're also involved in organizing an Afghan diaspora for a long time, and you've been back and forth, you've lived here for a long time, visited Afghanistan so many times in the past 20 years, what can Afghans in diaspora realistically do in the next, say, 12 months to support efforts to topple the Taliban?
Well, one of the biggest actually adventure, or I would say actually the biggest thing that we have here is we live in DC area. And that's actually the biggest advantage for all of the Afghans actually who lives here. The reason is because it's a very strategic place where you can meet your senator, you can meet representative, you can meet politicians, you can talk to your governor, you can meet actually a lot of people actually who has influences. And we should use that tool. And Afghans needs to get together. Afghans needs to get together actually in order to put their efforts combined, all of them. Like I can ask the entire Afghan audience over here that how many of them so far have wrote a letter to their congressmen, to their senators, perhaps a few of them. But we can put actually that effort, every single of them, if they collectively, or if we put actually a system, collectively have all the Afghans get together and get actually to their congressmen, get to their senators, politicians, other organizations actually, and collectively come up with an agenda that will matter. If you send one letter to your congressman, it does not take anything. But if the letter comes with the same content, 500, 600, 1,000 letters, that will definitely actually hold the weight. That's what we need actually from our Afghan community over here. And we have a huge Afghan community over here. It just only needs a very little organizational work that get them all together and use them for a good cause, for the cause that they want. It's not a cause actually that they don't want, for the cause that they want, and the politicians in the DC want the same thing. But we have to raise our voices. And I think today, this podium and in this structure would be the beginning of the same agenda, that we can actually collectively can go and make organizational effort in order to knock every single door of the politicians of the United States in DC in order to make actually changes and work towards the freedom of Afghanistan.
Thank you so much. That's very thoughtful. And anything that you would say about the lobbying efforts that's required for Afghanistan?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what another thing is. Hello? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so lobbying, we are a little bit actually behind. But there are a lot of actually, opportunities for us actually to do more lobbying, to talk more about that. We can organize events like today's event. We can organize events outdoor. We can reach out actually to the Afghan communities, to the other communities. We can reach out to churches, to the mosque, to different communities, different organizations, different humanitarian organizations, as well as organizations like United Nations. There are to put actually pressure on organizations like talk to organizations like United Nations, so they can put actually pressure in order to stop traveling of the Taliban's leadership, put a sanction on that. All these efforts actually can make a difference. And do we have the capability to do that? Absolutely. we live in DC area and we should actually put our efforts on. Yes, we can do that through this organization.
Thank you so much. That's a very good point that you made. And I believe we have under 500,000 Afghans in the United States, roughly about that number. And a good number of them are eligible to vote. To your point, they could definitely be part of the civic engagement process and would influence the U.S. government a lot to ensure that the U.S. policies towards Afghanistan is directed towards what we want and for the betterment of Afghanistan, as well as the U.S. government itself. Now, at this point, we have, as I mentioned, one of our panelists who could not make it is Dr. Kokilan, and he has sent us a video. He sent us apologies that he could not make it into the flight he was part of. So we're gonna pay attention to this video.
Today is 4 years since the fall of Kabul. In the chaotic two-week period after the collapse of the independent, internationally recognized Afghan Republic, many of us as veterans worked closely with our Afghan friends and colleagues to rescue thousands of people. We evacuated many thousands in the first few weeks after the fall of the Republic, but our numbers of successful evacuations have dropped off dramatically since then. Just to use one example, the small group that I was a part of helped evacuate 2,300 Afghan comrades in arms, civilians and others in the first 2 weeks. In the 4 years since then, we've only evacuated less than 100 people. So at this point, we need to recognize that sad truth that we can no longer hope to bring Afghans to safety. Instead, we need to bring safety to Afghans. That inevitably means pushing the Taliban back to create safe havens for the Afghan people. In those same 4 years, the Taliban have been applying increasingly strict and oppressive rule, even worse than when they were first in control of parts of the country before 2001. But they're increasingly fractured and divided. Their performance as illegitimate governing entity is terrible. Kabul is running out of water. The economy is in dire straits. Women have been excluded from education, from business, from all kinds of productive activity, and that's not unconnected with the terrible state of the Afghan economy. Children are dying of preventable diseases because the Afghan ruling regime of the Taliban is not able to provide for them and doesn't have the international legitimacy to do so. Iran is expelling millions of Afghans who fled there after the fall of Kabul. And on their return, the Taliban are arresting, torturing, and killing many of them. All of this is terrible, but it's also an opportunity. The Afghan people have clearly rejected Taliban rule. The international community doesn't recognize their legitimacy. More importantly, Islam doesn't recognize them. Dozens of religious leaders inside Afghanistan and across the Muslim world have condemned the Taliban as apostates and have called for them to be overthrown. Today, the most capable and legitimate resistance to the Taliban is the Afghan-United front. It includes many of our friends and partners who many of us fought and bled alongside during the war. And it's led by a true Afghan patriot and a true friend of the international community, General Sami Sadat. I'm proud to call him my personal friend. I believe we are about to see big changes in Afghanistan that will begin the process of freeing the Afghan people from the Taliban's oppression. To my fellow veterans, to whatever extent we can, consistent with the law and with our own ethics, I believe that we should all support this effort. The key word here is support. This is not a Western-led effort. This is the Afghan people acting on their own to throw off their oppressors. And it is Afghan designed, Afghan led. The Afghans who are seeking to free their own people are not asking for our permission. They're going to do it anyway. They're also not asking for Western boots on the ground. In fact, that's the last thing they want. But they could use our support, our resources, and most importantly, our advocacy, and never being quiet or forgetting about our friends, our comrades in arms, their families, and the beautiful country that we all fought to protect for 20 years, and which is now under Taliban control. That's what I plan to do. I plan to support them fully to the greatest extent that I legally and ethically can do so. And I hope that all of you, on this 4th anniversary of the collapse of Kabul, will think very hard about doing the same.
Very thoughtful and powerful words by Dr. Kaplan. Thank you so much for all those amazing words. A lot of information to think about, especially the anniversary, the 4th anniversary of the fall of Kabul. At this point, we're just going to turn to the audience to see if we have time for, I believe, 1 or 2 questions. If there's any questions from the audience, we're going to take.
What is the AUF doing to improve the understanding for the Afghans that are in this country to get more civically involved? Does the AUF have talking points, points of contact to pass out to the citizens that are in this country to influence them to make it better?
Absolutely. So this is our headquarters right now in UR. So AUF has been very active actually in terms of being a bridge actually between Afghans or Afghans in the United States. You can definitely contact us anytime, with any questions or anything else. I would ask actually Laura actually to give you more details on that. Laura?
I mean, yes, we are working on a plan in order to not only bring people into the AUF, but actually take the AUF out into the community. So those are just some that we do have some plans for that. A lot of collaboration effort work. We do realize that that is something that we need to very much focus on because all of this does not happen without the support of everyone. So my advice would be if you could follow us on social media and on our website, updates will come out and we will invite the community to be a part. And if you have something, I don't know if anybody has or watching has any kind of a nonprofit or anything like that, that's kind of my bread and butter. So if you have something or you have an event and you would like the AUF to be represented or at least to show up, I would definitely love to speak to you about that. Networking is key. So please just feel free, especially at dinner tonight, if you want to visit a little bit more about that, I would be happy to do that. But yes, it is a plan.
Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you so much for the questions. If we have time for one more question. This is again all.
Thank you very much. My question is specifically from our American counterparts. Yes. As Kamal stated before, that our neighboring countries, specifically Pakistan, they have the factories of insurgents, training them and sending them to Afghanistan to overthrow our democratic governments, like what happened in August 2021. And the US government knows very well about that. What is the reason that in the last 20 years the US government didn't take any diplomatic or any different kind of action against Pakistan? And so far, if we see the media, like a few days ago, the President of the United States mentioned that Pakistan is our best ally. That was my question. Thank you.
Thanks.
I think unfortunately, actually, the Biden decision is one to actually complain. They were so close to Pakistan versus Afghanistan, unfortunately. And there were actually a time that, Biden himself did actually talk about Pakistan being a very important ally actually of Afghanistan. That probably triggers. But one of the mistakes actually that the United States government did in terms of terrorism and destroying terrorism was actually that they did not go after terrorist organizations in Pakistan. Most of the operations were actually within Afghanistan, but they allowed terrorist organizations actually to reform in Pakistan, and so it just actually got to the capacity where actually got stronger and stronger and stronger 2005 up to 2021 until actually they did that. So absolutely, you're right on your point. This is something actually that everybody knows, but just by actually Pakistan being involved in insurgency and extension of, or in terms of actually, training the terrorist organizations within their country and sending them to Afghanistan. And everybody knows actually that Taliban and Al-Qaeda in that region actually cannot be functioning without trained, equipped, and deployed by the Pakistan government.
Thank you so much. So now is the time, and I would like to sincerely thank all of our distinguished panelists for their valuable insights as well as thoughtful analysis, and thank you for being part of this panel and listening and for your amazing questions. I hope this discussion serves as a starting point for practical steps and meaningful collaboration toward a free and stable Afghanistan. Thank you so much.
Okay, so next up, I do want to introduce to you our chairman of the AUF, Afghanistan General Sam Sadat. And I think that he would like to share a few words before we close. So you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Sarah. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. For the past 4 years, a dark cloud is casting over Afghanistan, a cloud released by demonic forces from heretical sanctuaries in the name of divine. These heretical forces have taken God-granted liberties, freedom, and the right to exist, erasing our culture, languages, and our traditions as we know it. Our nation is slowly dying under the yoke of the Taliban tyranny. Man enslaved to the will of another man, women in policy and practice are reduced to the status of subhumans. Today, as we speak, our youth are indoctrinated by evil to hate, to wage violence, and to obey the tyrant. In the past 4 years, over 10 million Afghans fled the country, refusing to live under the Taliban regime. Some 2 million are mass deported back by Iran and Pakistan. Europe has closed its doors to Afghans. America is looking the other way. Our people, the people of Afghanistan, are living in hell. Everything that is conducted by the Taliban in Afghanistan is neither divine nor human. It is sadistic, satanic, and demonic actions executed by an artificial regime of the evilest man on the planet Earth. God spoke to us via His holy books and messengers. We all know that this is wrong and this is evil. We are asked to fight the evil, to stand up to the tyrant, and take back our God-given freedoms. duty to our homeland. It is our duty to the Almighty, and it's our duty to fellow mankind to help those who cannot help themselves. We, the Afghan people, will never stop fighting back. We will never give in to the evil Taliban. We will never forgive, and we will never forget. We will fight on. We will carry on our flag with us to wherever we are as a symbol of our duty and a responsibility to bring it back to its home in Afghanistan. We have been preparing to fight back to free our nation, to bring back justice and lead our nation to prosperity. I'm grateful to America for allowing us to have a home, to come together, to plan and to prepare, to continue the partnership with the American people that's forged in fire and is earned with blood. I'm grateful to American veterans, their families and civilians who stood up by Afghans in these dark times. I promise you, justice will be served to those who harmed Afghans and Americans. We will fight on as long as it takes and as much as it takes. I'm grateful to those Afghan men and women who continue to fight on. Fighting against the Taliban is the most virtuous mission for men and women, not only for our Afghans, but for those who answer the call, who fought their moral duties, and who never stopped to confront the evil. Together we will defeat the Taliban, free Afghanistan, bring justice, and rise our nation under one flag, believing in our God of freedom, love, and joy. ګرانو همسنګرانو، 4 کاله کېږي چې د افغانستان پر سرنوشت باندې یو تورتم حاکم دی. دا تورتم د شیطاني قدرتونو په اشاره د زندیق طالب مشرانو په وسیله پر افغانانو تپل سوی دی. دا زندیق رهبران د هغه اختیاراتو چې رب تعالی انسان ته ورکړي دي ټول اخیستي دي. د افغانانو ازادي سلب سوې ده. زموږ د پښتو پر قاعدې په فارسي تمدن او په افغاني عنعناتو باندې سختې حملې روانې دي. زموږ ملت د طالب تر ظلم لاندې د تدریجي مرګ په حالت کې دی. نارینه د طالب زندیقو غلامان بولي. ښځو ته د فرعي انسان په حیث کتل کېږي. شیعه او اهل سنت محکوم مذاهب ګرځېدلي دي. نن افغان تنکي ځوانان په مدرسو کې نفرت، خشونت او وحشت زده کوي، تر څو دوی هم لکه اوسني ټوپکیان د طالب شیخانو غلامان شي. په تېر 4 کاله کې 10 میلیونه افغانان د افغانستان څخه بیرون ته کډه سوي دي، چې د هغې څخه 2 میلیونه یې بېرته اجباراً د ایران او پاکستان څخه وطن ته شړل سوي دي. اروپا خپلې دروازې پر افغانانو تړلې دي او امریکا هم بلې خواته ګوري. خو موږ افغانان ناهیلي نه یو او یو بل سره لرو. زموږ ملت فعلاً په جهنم کې ژوند کوي. کړنې نه الهي دي او نه هم انساني دي، بلکې یو شیطاني نشه ده چې طالبان د زندیق رهبرانو د خوا د دوی مصنوعي رژیم د غلامانو په واسطه باندې عملي کېږي. خدای تعالی موږ ته په قرآن عظیم شان کې هدایتونه کړي دي او هلته یې ښه او بد انسان ته ښودلي دي. د دې قرآن په رڼا کې موږ پوهېږو چې طالبان بد او یو شیطاني او طاغوتي رژیم دی او مسلمانانو ته د جهاد امر کړی دی چې د ظلم په مقابل کې مقابله او مبارزه وکړو. د طالبانو سره مقابله یو دینی فریضه او انساني وظیفه ده. د الله تعالی تر دې د ساتلو لاندې موږ خپل د ملت د خلاصون لپاره مبارزه کوو. موږ افغانان هیڅکله خپله مبارزه ونه درو. د ظالم په مقابل کې درېږو. هیڅکله به د طالب مفکورې ته نه تسلیمېږو. هیڅکله به طالبان ونه بخښو او هیڅکله به د طالبانو ظلمونه زموږ پر ملت باندې هیر نه کړو. د دنیا په هر کونج کې چې یو موږ یو 3 رنګه بیرغ راسره دی او دا بیرغ به د مبارزې مسؤلیت او زموږ د حقانیت نښه وي. مورد افغانستان په متحد جبهه کې د آمادګۍ په حال کې یو تر څو خپل وطن آزاد کړو، عدالت تامین او افغانستان تعالی او نړیوال عزت ته ورسوو. د هغه افغانانو څخه چې نن د وطن د ازادۍ لپاره اوس هم مبارزه کوي، حقیقت وایي او عدالت غواړي، زه مننه کوم او دا وایم چې تاسې د الله رښتیني بندګان او د وطن باغیرته انسانان یاست. د هغه نړیوالو څخه په دې سخت وخت کې د افغانانو سره مرستې کوي هم مننه کوم. افغانان اوس هم په نړۍ کې ملګري لري. د طالبانو پر ضد مبارزه مقدسه او عزتمنده او د باغیرته او باتقوا خلکو کار دی. زه د الله جل جلاله څخه شاکره یم چې ماته یې اوس د دې وخت راکړی او د دې فرصت راکړی چې د ملت د ازادۍ په مبارزه کې ګډون ولرم. ماته تر ټولو لوی خوشبختي دا ده چې په دې مبارزه کې خپل د افغانانو تر څنګ ودرېږم او په آخرت کې د مبارزینو په صف کې حشر شم. موږ به افغانستان آزاد کړو، طالبان به مات کړو او وطن به آباد کړو. د دې درې رنګه بیرغ په سوري کې د الهي قوانینو په رڼا کې به خپل ملت بیرته راپورته کړو او په ګډه به د پیشرفت سکوت ته ولاړ شو. همسنگران عزیز، برای چهارمین سال ابر سیاه بر سرنوشت مردم افغانستان سایه افکنده است. ابری که توسط قدرت‌های شیطانی پهن شده و با واسطه رهبران زندیق طالب عملی می شود. این شیاطین اختیارهای انسانی را که خداوند داده است گرفتند. بر قاعده پشتو، فرهنگ فارسی، زبان و باورهای ما حمله نمودند. ملت افغان تحت ظلم طالب در حال مرگ تدریجی قرار دارد. مردها غلام و زنها در پالیسی و عمل طالبا و انسانهای فرعی تقلیل یافتند. امروز مذاهب شیعه و اهل حدیث در افغانستان محکوم گردیدند. جوانان افغان در مدارس ذهنیت‌های شیطانی، تنفر، خشونت و فرهنگ‌های بیگانه را می‌آموزند و در حال آماده شدن غلامی و رهبران ظالم طالبان هستند. از اشغال دوباره افغانستان توسط طالبان در حدود 10 میلیون افغان از وطن خارج شده که حدود 2 میلیون آنها دوباره از ایران و پاکستان به شکل جمعی اجباراً اخراج گردیدند. اروپا درهای خویش را بر روی افغانها بسته است و آمریکا نگاهش را جای دیگر انداخته است. اما ما افغانها یکی دیگر را داریم، همدیگر را در آغوش میگیریم و همدیگر میایستیم و مشترکاً برای آزادی خانهمان مبارزه میکنیم. مردم امروز در افغانستان در جهنم زندگی میکنند. اعمال طالبان امروز در افغانستان نه الهی است و نه هم انسانی، بلکه عمل یک رژیم زندیق و شریر می باشد. طالبان به نام خدا و پیامبر اکرم با مؤمنین و اسلام دشمنی می کنند و چنین انسانها زندیق هستند. الله تعالی برای بندگان از طریق پیامبران سخن گفته و هدایاتش را ارسال نموده است. با اتکا و احکام الهی ما می دانیم که طالبان غلط و در راه شیطان قدم گذاشتند. در قرآن عظیمشان ایشان برای ما هدایت داده است که با شیطان و پیروانش مقابله کنیم، در مقابل ظلم بایستیم و آزادی‌هایی را که خداوند برایمان داده است را دوباره بگیریم و عدالت را در زمین تأمین نماییم. این وظیفه شهروندی و فریضه دینی ما است که به نام خدا در مقابل طالبان ظالم بجنگیم و به کسانی که به کمک ما نیاز دارند کمک کنیم. ما افغانها هیچ وقت مبارزه خیش را توقف نمی‌دهیم. هیچگاه تسلیم نظریات طالب نمی‌شویم. هیچگاه طالبان را نمی‌بخشیم و هیچگاه ظلم طالبان بر ملت خیش را فراموش نمی‌کنیم. مبارزه من ادامه دارد. حامل بیرق سه‌رنگ دوباره برمی‌گردیم تا این نشان آزادی و عدالت را دوباره به خانه‌اش افغانستان برگردانیم. ما در جبهه متحد در حال آمادگی مبارزه برای آزادی افغانستان هستیم تا عدالت را تامین کنیم و و ملت خویش را برای رسیدن به شکوفایی اقتصادی رهبری و کمک کنیم. تشکر میکنم از افغانهای مبارز و دوستان امریکایی ما که از جبهه متحد حمایت کردند. از امریکایی ها و اروپایی هایی که در این روزهای دشوار با افغان ها کمک کردند من متشکرم و این خوبیشان را هیچگاه فراموش نمیکنیم. و جوانان و خانواده های داغ دیده از ظلم طالب وعده میدهند که عدالت بر سر این ظالمان تامین می شود. هر دست و هر زبانی که بر ضد افغان استعمال شده است پاسخش را دریافت می کند. این مبارزه را ما تا پیروزی ادامه می دهیم. هر قدر زمان نیاز باشد و هر قدر قربانی نیاز باشد آن را برای آزادی می پردازیم. جنگ با طالب مقدسترین وظیفه دینی و بهترین کار انسانی برای زن و مرد افغان و دوستان افغانستان است. من افتخار میکنم و خدا را شکرگزارم که برایم فرصت مبارزه بر ضد طالبان ظالم را نصیب نموده است. ما با هم مبارزه میکنیم، پیروز میشویم، افغانستان را آزاد میکنیم، عدالت را تامین میکنیم و ملت خویش را به شکوفایی میرسانیم تا افغانستان امن برای همه افغانا باشد. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tonight, participants, organizers, and the panelists. This has been a wonderful event. This is a sad day, but for the last 2 years we're using this day to fight back. The fact that we are all together coming here with our flags and talking about the future pathway and renewing our commitment shows that this fight is not over. And at the end of this war, the Taliban will be the losers and the good guys will win. I thank you all for supporting this event and coming together tonight.
You're just one of the best people that we all know and love, and you have a heart for taking back your country, and it's with all of the right motives. So we really appreciate your powerful words. Okay, so this is going to conclude the end of our event, and dinner is downstairs, but before you guys head down there, I do want to offer one of the things about the mission of our humanitarian aid program is to provide humanitarian aid and support to former members of the AFG-U.S. and women that are considered very high risk in Afghanistan. So I don't know if you noticed just when you came in the door, one of the ways that you can help us tonight, we're very early. We just got approval for this, and in a short amount of time, we've actually been able to help about 8 families that were former special forces in Afghanistan. I'm very